This video is part of a series on video evidence on September 11th concerning the Pentagon impact. At the Pentagon, there were two cameras at a gate that was used for checking in at the location. Both cameras were pointed approximately south. They were pointed at the cars coming in and out, but they did catch, in the distance, an impact to the Pentagon. The Pentagon is a fairly large building if you're not aware of it. So the next thing is that at the same time, two main other video sources are being brought up by people. Now I'm going to point out something, that there's a rumor of 85 or some other number, people keep changing it to search engine optimized, videos that have been suppressed that contained obviously information about this, because apparently every camera on Earth had to be pointing at the impact location or along the flight pathway, which was from here across this clover leaf. There used to be a fourth one here, all the way down here, almost in a perfect straight line with this road. Every camera in that area had to be pointing at it. Never mind, this is the Pentagon, and they really don't like having surveillance cameras pointed at them, and that all the places that you get camera views from at the time were either pointed away from it or behind highways, or in the case of the gas station here called CityGo, both. It pointed cameras north and south and west, didn't point towards the Pentagon. Not because they were trying to worry about the Pentagon's security or safety, but because they had a parking lot to monitor. And just like that parking lot was monitored by having a camera mounted high enough you couldn't mess with it, and aiming down so you could actually use it for something like, what security cameras are used for. I've already done a video about it. Over here at the Doubletree Hotel, they had the same sort of arrangements. And again, it was pointed downward. It was pointed generally the direction that it could pick up the puff of smoke after the impact on the opposite side of the building from it. Over all of these overpasses, it could pick up something that, floats up in the air after an explosion. Today we're going to discuss the efficacy of deciding that in some way at all, it would be able to pick up anything other than that puff of smoke, mostly because this is for completeness purposes. The pathway the plane came in, according to official flight path as it is labeled by truther websites, was that it went over the overpass here, almost exactly cutting through this position on the overpass, and then impacted over here. And I've drawn a reasonably badly straightened out line, but you get the idea of it. Over here used to be another cloverleaf section, and they drew it this way. It's because of the objects that hit. This entire area has been redone because they removed the cloverleaf section there. So we don't have that to work with anymore or to look at. So we're going to have to extrapolate from maps we can use today. And we might revisit the bridge here. But the point is that the plane came in low enough to hit the light poles that are here and knock them down. One light pole here, one light pole here, and then across over to here, hitting two more that were like this, and one extra one here in the straight line path. And that information there is something they don't want to argue anymore. They're willing to say that no, somebody didn't show up and chop down posts and somehow not get recorded. And then if you're curious, that's where the CityGo was. Now, we're going to look at the Doubletree. First of all, it's a half mile away. Second, the impact was on the opposite side of the building from where it was pointing. Next, it had 1, 2, 3, probably 4 conventional highways worth of stuff to try to look through, which I don't think would work. But we're going to look at that today. Now, I want to warn you, we're going to be using Google Street View Van, which has a camera up on a post on top of a car. So it's not a really good comparison necessarily, but it might be a really good comparison for the height of a CCTV camera. The first part here is that in this spot in the image from that camera recording is where you see the puff of smoke. You'll see that in a minute, a better version of it. This is the driveway in front of this motel, and this is 6 or 7 cars lined up in the parking lot, which is why they had the camera pointed here. The dead center point that the camera's pointing at, if you're not paying attention, it's right here, is it's pointing at the middle of the parking lot at the wheels of that car. It's not pointing up here. It's not trying to capture birds or planes flying over. And it's not trying to pay attention to the highway or roads out here because it's not relevant. They're doing this for a rubber stamp or a check mark on the security file that says we can be insured because we have cameras. Okay? Now we'll look at a higher resolution version of it, but again, I want to point out the overpass sign, and also I should point out one more thing, the underpass here. We're going to use those as way markers to figure out what we're looking at. But we have to notice this, we have to notice this, we have to notice that there are a couple of a couple of flagpoles here. Okay? Okay. This is the image as it looked, and there's the poof right there, and right here would be the signs if you could see them. It's obscured by it being visually more interesting to look at this puff of smoke. You can also tell that this was not the greatest quality camera on the planet. They have to put up with all sorts of lighting changes, and they're not really made to do much better than this. Again, this is there for security purposes. There's a person in the parking lot, and yes, later on in the video, after the impact, there's a glitch in the video where you can see part of a previous recording that was on it. Nothing really all that interesting, but it does show you that it was probably a video recording on VHS tape. This is a 2007 rendition of Google Street View pointing at that building, and that appears to be almost exactly the same camera position. They've had cameras in various positions, but that seems to be the correct one for this location, and we'll just use that as a reference point. We're going to do a lineup for it. And there's the 4 poles, 3 of which are flag poles in that time. So there's probably 3 of them. There's the underpass, and right there you can just barely see that overpass sign, which we're going to go to in a minute. I want you to notice that we're up here. We're at an elevated location looking at an elevated road. Can you see the Pentagon from here? We're up higher. Okay? And remember, the plane came in skimming lampposts. Oh, and I'd like to thank Google for doing something useful once. They re-enabled the frog leap function, I'm going to call it, for jumping over here and getting to the point. And as we go further and further forward in time, they've removed a pole, a flagpole. We're going to go over here, and I'm going to try to get it to where we line up with that camera. Now remember, the camera was pointed at one of these spots over here. The camera was positioned approximately here. And if we turn around, I'm going to do a simple trick where I turn around and try to make the compass rotate exactly. The exact center of where we're looking shouldn't be this crossing point marker thing, but you get the idea. So let's just do a backup real quick. There's our overpass. The dead center point's way over here. It's not pointing at this set of signs. And we're in front of the 3 posts where they were. We should be lined up with where the tree was. All right. Now let's try lining this up. Pretty damn line up. Let's see if the signs line up. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Yeah, they line up really good. So we have almost the same view, same angle, looking the way the DoubleTree was. We can see a couple of lampposts over here, but can you see the lampposts that were in front of the overpass that was in front of the Pentagon? I don't think you can. We're going to get up there for a minute. Okay, we're up here. The lampposts we could see in the background at all. And remember, we were in an elevated location at that time, and we're on top of a vehicle that has a post sticking up out of it with a 360 view camera. We could see these lampposts. We're not going to see these lampposts in the distance that were hit by the plane. We're not going to see the Pentagon. Let's turn around and confirm our angles here. We're at the location that I'm using as a reference point, this overhead signage, and we're looking back at the building. I'm going to time tunnel it back so you can see the blue, hopefully see the blue and white building. There it is. That's our reference point. And there we see literally the camera over in the distance. So let's line that up with dead center as best we can. Remember, we're not going to be able to see much of anything other than a puff of smoke, and it'll be sometime after the impact. So let's rotate around, and let's see what we would have seen if we would have been able to see over. And again, the only lampposts we can see when we look over are these. See the scale? We zoom in. No, we wouldn't have seen an airplane. It was flying low enough to clip posts. We wouldn't have seen anything. Well, what about an angle? Okay, let's line this up while the Google Map utility goes out of its way to crash as much as possible. We're flying along, hitting I'm reversing the track for the plane, going all the way across here. And it was following a road, essentially. And again, we can't see any of these posts in the distance at all. And beyond a certain point, it's interrupted by apparently some buildings and some more overpass material. So let's review here. I already did a video about a gas station that doesn't have any video cameras that were pointed anywhere near where it would be useful. And the DoubleTree video only shows us that we can find one bit of data. The data point is the point of impact in time. That's it. And the angle, again, lines up with, and let's just do this again for everybody else's edification, because they've done this, I think, 1,000 times now. It lines up with pretty much a nice straight line with the tip, the little back edge here of the Pentagon. And yeah, that lines up reasonably well with being able to see nothing, because it would have been obscured by the building on impact. It was coming in low enough to hit these telephone poles and these light poles that are really, I mean, they're ridiculously low to the ground compared to what you think they would be. These mounds of dirt that these elevated highways are on blocked the pathway for being able to see any of this. And even the approach vector would have been obscured by a lot of material here. So no, it wouldn't have had any extra data. Nothing can be censored. Saying, oh, well, there's a 2-second glitch in the video, they were hiding something, that doesn't make any sense either. This is over half a mile away. I mean, it is literally over half a mile away. And yeah, we were able to, in that, be able to point at the back edge of the building. It is consistent with an impact at the location. That gets rid of that argument if you're going to have it. It's too far away to really get any resolution anyway. And even if it was elevated somehow even higher than we have a pogo stick with a camera on top of a VW bug running around in DC like Google set up here, we still can't see it. The camera wasn't set that damn high above the ground to be able to see up and over all of this, nor would it have been able to see through somehow magically all of this cement and dirt. And over here, yeah, I already did the CityGo video as well. It wouldn't have been able to see anything else either. Now, one more point I might do here if we have time, and I will try to do it very quickly. Let me show you. We're back using June 2008 imagery. It's kind of hard to see. This is the blue and white building I pointed out. It's been demolished since then. This is the building that had that camera on it. This is the underpass in view, most likely. Could actually be the other one over here, actually. And that, or one of the others, is the set of signs over the elevated road. There's the tent that might have been visible in the video image. And from here you can also see, if you want to look at it, the other point of view for the CityGo gas station, which is down there. I'll try to give you a better view here in a second. And at the time that it would have had any cameras running, it had cameras pointed in a way that would be beneficial to the CityGo. It was pointed at their customers to make sure that they had a secure area. And it was pointed away from the Pentagon. And again, this thing we're sitting on, and we're jacked up in the air, would have blocked its view for almost everything as well. The only thing it would have been able to view, if it could have viewed it, would have been a shadow going across the ground of an airplane flying at 500 miles an hour. And at that location, at the CityGo, the frame rate was too low. The one with the higher frame rate, somewhat, is over there, now obscured by a tree. And it had the ability to record the cloud of smoke coming up after the impact, which confirms, not denies or calls into question, an impact by something. Hope this has been useful, but those are the only other two video recordings that are commonly cited by conspiracy theorists and debunkers alike, except for a camera way the hell down over there that's been discussed way too much, that happens to be pointing there and picked up an impact that people have decided can't be a plane, but somehow they still cite the fact that these telephone poles here were knocked down by something big enough to knock out both poles at the same time, but somehow it was a cruise missile 3 feet across. Yeah. So anyway, that's been the video. It's mostly a tour of Washington, D.C. I know way too much about this town. I've never visited, or haven't visited. I don't think I've ever been there or flown over it. I hope this has been useful to you. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.